Hi, I'm Kelly Gallagher, speech language pathologist, and welcome to Smart Mouth. Today's topic, 5 tips to work on the T, the T, and the D, the D sounds at home. Tip number 1, let's talk about place. So where this sound is made in the mouth. The first thing to know is that the T sound and the D sound are made in the exact same place in your mouth. And one of my favorite ways to get at it, if a child is having trouble with it, is to use a lollipop. So you take the lollipop and then you put it in the place in their mouth where you would like them to put their tongue. So we make the T and the D sound if you take your tongue and you go behind your teeth and then you feel that tiny little diving board before it vaults into the roof of your mouth. That little diving board is called your alveolar ridge, and that is where the T and the D sound are made. So take the lollipop and put it right behind the child's teeth like this. And then that way, when they get their tongue in the right place, they're going to be able to taste the sound as they make it. Tip number 2 is blowing out a candle. This usually just works for the T sound and is specific to the English T sound. In other languages, the T is sometimes made further down on the teeth, and so we don't get what's called that aspirated t sound. So it's harsher, and you can actually blow out a candle when you do it. So hold out either a real candle if you're feeling pretty daring, or you can use a finger, or you can use like a pom-pom and sort of have them go and see if they can blow whatever it is either out or off the table or wherever it is you're practicing. Tip number 3 is sound effects. Sometimes working on a sound when it's in a word and there's like pressure to be understood and maybe to get a need met, it can be a little bit challenging and maybe even put a little bit of pressure on the child. And so to sort of separate out those things about making the sound and then also being understood, you can sort of just use the sound effects. For the T sound, the T sound, my favorite one is to use like a snare drum. So pretend to play the drums. Or to simulate the air brake on, say, a train or a bus. So when they stop, then you hear that sound. And that's a really, really good way to sort of just put those sounds in the environment, be listening for them, and sort of mimic the sounds instead of having to put that pressure of it being in a word. Tip number 4 is voicing. So if the child has the T sound, or if they have the D sound, then they also have the other one. It's just a matter of turning your voice on. So one of my favorite methods is to have the child put their hand right on my throat, and if they can do their own at the same time and it sort of looks like this, it's a little funny looking, but it's really effective. So then they can hear when they have their voice off versus when it's on. So that t versus the d sound. Your voice turns on for that d sound. And so it's a really easy, if they are having trouble hearing the sound, then it might be a little bit easier for them to feel it and to mimic as you do it. Tip number 5 is anchor letters. The alveolar ridge, the little diving board where you're making your t and your d sound, is not the only those are not the only sounds that we use on our alveolar ridge. Other examples include the N sound, N, the S sound, S, the Z sound, Z, and the L sound, ul. Then you can sort of use those sounds because they're made in the same place in the mouth in order to get to those sounds. One of my favorite examples is actually a combination of the N and the S. It's actually impossible to use an N and an S together and not have a tiny little T in there. Even in the word once, which is like a WUNTS, really, if we're thinking about it. But who cares about spelling? Point is, if you have an N and an S together, then you get the T almost by accident. And so that's a really good one. You can also cut that S off altogether and say words like ant. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you have any questions or thoughts, go ahead and leave them in the comment box down below. And if you like this content and you'd like to see more of it, please subscribe and hit that notification bell and maybe give the video a like. All right, I will see you in the next one.